Hola and buenos dias, everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Before I jump into the entire point of this video, which is the confronting one of the biggest reasons why I think a lot of startups fail in the early days, I thought I'd very briefly tell you who I am. My name is Max. I'm the founder of Eco Companion, a booking engine that offers sustainable experiences in nature. I've gone through every cliche in the book over the last 2 years, from moving back to the countryside to live, luckily down the road from my mum, not actually with her. I've delivered pizzas on the weekends and everything you can possibly imagine, basically, to stay alive. And I've now finally got to the point where we've gained investment of £100,000. So all of this, I think, gives me the opportunity to I can deliver some of these insights to you guys, basically, that hopefully might be useful to you to allow you to get to this same point. Also, I'm not a multimillionaire yet. It wasn't 20 years ago that I did this. I've only just done it. So I think actually this might make it more easy to be related to in terms of your own journey. And why am I making these videos in the first place? What it really comes down to is, since running my own business, my job now is to make others do their job better, basically. It's not about my skill set almost anymore. It's about making the people that work around me do their job as best they can. And I've loved that so much. And I want to be able to be a better teacher or educator or whatever you want to call it. And of course, video online is the best medium for this. So if I can just do this 1,000 more times, hopefully not in my bedroom for all of them, I can start to deliver you some much more spectacular content which will help you down your path of growth. But that is far too much about me already. I promise the next video will have a much shorter introduction. So let's get into the actual topic itself. So the topic for this week is the most common mistake that startups know to avoid, but still allow it to destroy them. Some of the classic signs that people are quite likely to be making this exact mistake, which I'm about to reveal to you momentarily, is I see it in investment pitches. I've seen it on LinkedIn when people introduce themselves. I've seen it at other networking events, is people telling me so proudly how huge their market is. So they talk about whatever food delivery service in London, for example, and they're like, oh, it's worth hundreds of billions of gajillions of pounds, and how they're going to just only need 1% of it to make a massive success of themselves. And why is it such a mistake to go for one of these larger markets? Obviously more money in them. It would be common sense, really, that you are going to make more money for yourself rather than one of these tiny, smaller markets, which are less valuable in total. The problem comes from basically that you're trying to satisfy a huge number of different types of customers rather than just focusing on one. So you, as a tiny startup, only have a very small amount of resource available to you. And so it becomes impossible to try and satisfy this huge breadth of different types of people. And so what's the answer to this mistake? What's the way to avoid this error? I think most of you probably watching this video will have figured it out already and have been repeating this word in your head as you've watched this. The answer is niche. Niche. Just as a side note, fuck off America trying to ruin this word. It's a beautiful French, soft-spoken word, niche, not niche. Vincent, I'm looking at you in particular. No niche, niche. But Max, I knew that already. Why are you telling me this? I hear you say. It's an idea that everybody gets already. Niche has been said 1,000 times already. You've probably read it in 10 different books that you've read. From Seth Godin and all of the rest of them. Why are you even still watching this video? Maybe it's because of my beautiful face, of course. Separate to that, I bring the case that you don't practice what you preach well enough yet. I believe that there is a sliding scale of ultra niche where you work on one customer all the way across to mass market Coca-Cola that serves every single human on the planet almost. And I think that you are nowhere near close enough to on the spectrum that you need to be. A perfect example of this was when I started Eco Companion. I had in my head that we would be serving women from the UK aged 18 to 60. huge range because I ultimately just thought all of these people could like our product. Since then, I've now broken it down much more closely into 18 to 35, which is still actually quite broad. The psychographics are far, far more narrow, and southeast of the UK in particular. All of these things have occurred because we've realised that if we can focus in and obsess over this hardcore user, the ones that really give a fuck about wildlife and nature, then they're the ones who are most likely to share, they're the ones who are most likely to book, and they're the ones who are most likely to probably accept the shortcomings in our own startup in this kind of early stage. They're the early adopters, of course. You will have this constant battle within your own head that says, for example, with my company, we have this perfect archetypal character or brand persona called Jenny. So she's 25, she delivers 80% of all of our bookings through our site. So of course we should be focusing on her. But then suddenly you remember Ruth, Patsy and Judith, who are from the north of England. They're all over 60 years old, and they do make up the other 10% of our audience. So how can I, as a business owner, reject these lovely women who have found value in my business? One other interesting example actually is this very video itself. So when I started thinking it through and what I would create and how I would approach it, I thought to myself, should I swear in this video? Because obviously some people hate swearing, other people find it mildly amusing. I am one of the latter. So I had to think to myself, who's going to be watching this? How are they going to feel about that? Also, I had to think about like what I wanted to make, which is of course quite key too. What it came down to, I think, is that again, what I could do would be consider trying to satisfy everyone, which would probably be the not swearing at all. But ultimately, again, all that would lead to would be me being plain Jane in the middle of the river, and not actually entertaining or interesting or satisfying anyone's needs. So given all of these examples that I've told you about and the kind of whole concepts, please do just consider and pause for a moment with your own idea or your own startup. How narrow have you gone? With my own business, we thought we had a niche already with ecotourism. Turns out that's actually worth 179 billion. So we have to now, our challenge is to find the niche within the niche. So how small and specific can we go? In our case, we've gone hardcore hippies. Perfect for us. For you, obviously, you have to just figure out for yourself. I think just remember the mantra: to satisfy everyone is to ultimately end up satisfying no one. So now I am going to try and coin my own phrase in the very first video I've ever made. Quite audacious of me, I know. And that phrase is the micro niche. Ever since we've come up with our own micro niche at Eco Companion, we have just had huge amounts of benefits from it. It's given us freedom in terms of our brand voice. So when our editor writes emails out to our audience, we're allowed to be so much more personable, come up with specific kind of bant that goes perfectly with our 25-year-old female, rather than having to worry about, for example, the 50 to 60-year-old female not quite getting it and what we're about. It allows you to focus in on what type of product you offer. It allows you to focus in on the right pricing, the right place, events, for example. We were going to do camping trips, but that would be we were slightly paranoid it could be an awkward affair anyway if you've got too much of a breadth of people turning up. Whereas now all of these things are possible for us because of our micro niche. So whether you're at the idea phase of your startup, whether you've gained investment like me or are even further along in your journey, I'd encourage you to pause and consider whether you can gain even more of a competitive advantage by going even more into your micro niche. And please do comment below what your micro niche actually is or what you think it might be, because I'm very eager to find out what people do think of it and how far they do go with it. And of course also please do let me know what you thought of this video and how you think I did and how I could improve. I'm sure that there's something. Lots of love, Max.